Hi, I'm Teresa Latini, the Executive Director of Mount Olivet Conference and Retreat Center. In 1976, Mount Olivet Lutheran Church purchased over 150 acres of land here in Farmington in order to provide a place of natural beauty where Mount Olivet members could gather together for fellowship, for worship, for growth in their faith, and for rest and renewal. And so for over 40 years, the Retreat Center has been seeking to nurture the intellectual, spiritual, and emotional growth not only of Mount Olivet Church members, but also members and leaders of other churches and nonprofit organizations here in Minnesota and beyond. This space, as I've come to understand it, is a geography of grace, a theater of God's glory. In this video today, Dan Kahl, our Director of Operations and Site Naturalist, is going to introduce you to this landscape, toward the marshes, the prairies, and the forests that make up Mount Olivet Conference and Retreat Center. I hope that as you go on this tour with him, you will experience something of God's love, something of God's grace, something of God's still small voice speaking to you. And even more so, I hope too that you will find your own backyards, your neighborhoods, and the landscapes where you live and work to be sources of God's love, nurture, and care for you and for all creation.
This is the beginning of the brand new Marshwalk, which was completed last year. We had the dedication in October of 2019, sort of the crown jewel of our hiking system out here of 5 miles of trails. This is 425 feet from the mainland to an island that overlooks the lake. It floats on the water, so it goes up and down as the water fluctuates. Here we are on the observation platform of the Marshwalk. It has a nice sitting bench here, and you can just sort of look out on the lake. There's dragonflies flying by. We got different water lilies here. There's some that are just popping up. There's a couple yellow ones, and a little bit later there'll be white water lilies as well. Now the marsh provides a valuable resource. It's a great habitat for a lot of aquatic life and birds and animals as well. It filters out sediments and other pollutants, and it acts as a giant sponge that sort of absorbs a lot of the excess water that is coming down from heavy rainfalls. The marsh is alive with a lot of activities, all kinds of insects, both above the surface and below the surface. And it's a great place to come as you check out the retreat center, and make sure you take a walk on the Marshwalk if you come for a hike. This is one of our forest trails. We have like 5 miles of hiking trails, and some of it goes through this oak hickory forest. So the oak hickory forest around us has also basswood trees, there's ash trees, elm trees, and there's ironwood trees, which is sort of like an understory plant that grows in the shade, but it has extremely strong wood. There's also a scattering of pagoda dogwood, and also some aspen and cottonwood trees in the lower lying areas. But in the spring, before everything is leafed out, this place is carpeted with spring ephemerals. So spring ephemerals are perennials that come up each spring before the leaves come out, and they get all of their energy from the sun like in April and early May before the leaves have come out. So we have white trout lilies, we have trilliums, we have meadow rose, we have bloodroot, we have anemones, also wild geraniums, and some of the sunnier spots, wild columbine, and a few places there's the rare showy orchis, which has beautiful pink flowers around Mother's Day. So all of these are growing in the early spring, and then they go dormant by the end of June. And so then you don't see them in the other forests. There's Virginia waterleaf, and there's other ground covers that sort of take over. So one of the things you'll notice during the summertime in the forest trails is if it's sunny and hot out, you come into the forest in the shade, you'll notice a 10 to 15 degree drop. So it's like an air conditioning place to be. Here is the Prairie at Mount Olivet Conference and Retreat Center. The land here that you see before you was abandoned farmland back in the 90s, and they decided to turn it into a prairie. So we have 30-some acres of prairie that were planted, and you can see a nice swath of lupine out here. There's actually thousands in bloom right now, and we have the main grass, or prairie grass, which is starting to come up now, is the big blue stem. It'll get as high as 7-8 feet tall. And so you can imagine the settlers, as they were moving west, and they see this sea of grass 7 to 8 feet for miles and miles at a time. What a interesting site they were coming into. This is sort of a remnant. We only have about 1% of our native prairie left in Minnesota. And the prairies have great root structures. They go down, some of them from 3 feet all the way down to 18 feet or more. And we have, besides the lupine and the grasses, there's also a lot of goldenrod. There's bee balm, which attracts butterflies, and there's mountain mint, and there's black-eyed Susans. There's a variety of other wildflowers in here, lead plant, and then even some with iconic sounding names like rattlesnake master. The prairie supports another wide variety of animal and plant and insect out here. We try to do a prairie burn about every 4 years, and then you see all these mounds all over the place that are actually ant mounds. So there's just hundreds of them all over on the prairie, and with little passageways underneath. So there's lots of activity underground as well as above ground out on the prairie. As you come to the retreat center, if you want to come for a visit, you have a variety of habitats. You have your oak hickory forest, you have the prairie, you have marshland, you have abandoned fields, you have open areas. So it's just a wide variety of habitats, and it's just a beautiful setting to come for a walk.